All right, let's set the stage for one of the most intriguing and underappreciated factions in the Warhammer 40k universe, the Exodites. These Eldar descendants, often overshadowed by their more prominent kin, have long lived in the shadows of the greater Eldar narrative. Yet, when faced with the looming threat of a universal cataclysm, the Exodites might just hold the key to survival. In the Warhammer 40k universe, where the darkness of space threatens to devour all that exists, a universal cataclysm is not a matter of if, but when. An event so cataclysmic that it would challenge the very fabric of reality itself. Perhaps a rupture in the warp, a colossal Xenos invasion, or the return of ancient, unimaginable horrors. Whatever form it might take, the stakes are unimaginable. But amid the galaxy's chaos, the Exodites stand as the last line of defense, a forgotten yet crucial element in the struggle for survival. Their ancient traditions, their world-spanning defenses, and their unwavering resilience could very well make the difference between salvation and annihilation. So, what if the Exodites are truly the galaxy's last hope? What if their fate is tied to the survival of the galaxy itself? Let's dive into this story of forgotten heroes, ancient civilizations, and a battle for the very survival of the cosmos. The Exodites are one of the most mysterious and enigmatic factions within the Eldar race, and yet they are often overlooked or misunderstood by those who focus on the more infamous Eldar factions like the Craft Worlds or the Drukhari. But what sets the Exodites apart from the rest of the Eldar, and why is their story one of such quiet importance? To understand the Exodites, you have to look at their origins. They were born from the same seeds as the other Eldar, a species that once ruled over the stars in an age of unimaginable grandeur. The Eldar were a race of gods in their own right, their minds and bodies far beyond the comprehension of lesser species. They had knowledge of the universe's deepest secrets and the power to bend reality itself. However, the Eldar's fate would be sealed by their own hedonism, their insatiable desires that led to the fall, the event that forever shattered their civilization. This was the moment the Eldar's decadence and hubris brought forth the birth of Slanesh, the chaos god of excess, and doomed their race to a spiral of decay and destruction. But not all of the Eldar were complicit in this excess. While many of the Eldar had fallen into the embrace of the dark pleasures of their civilization, some foresaw the coming catastrophe. These were the Exodites, those who chose to leave behind the decadence of the core Eldar worlds before it was too late. They sought refuge in the most primitive and harsh environments they could find, worlds that would keep them far from the destructive allure of their decadent kin. They fled to the wilderness of distant planets, far away from the webway and the alluring temptations that had consumed their race. The Exodites did not have the luxury of maintaining their ancient civilizations, their immense knowledge, or the vast technology of the Eldar. They were forced to embrace a life of survival, carving their existence out of the harshest, most inhospitable worlds they could find. They became a people of hunters, farmers, and warriors, masters of the land, not of the stars. In a way, they sought redemption, not just from the excesses of their own people, but from the knowledge that their race's downfall had been a product of their own self-destructive desires. The Exodites represented a rejection of the very excess that had doomed the Eldar. But why were the Exodites different from the other Eldar factions? It all comes down to their philosophy and the way they chose to live. The Craft Worlds, for example, are all about preservation, preserving the Eldar race and its knowledge, fighting to survive in a galaxy that has turned against them. The Drukhari, on the other hand, embody the extreme end of the Eldar's depravity, thriving on suffering, pain, and the pursuit of power at any cost. The Exodites, however, were defined by their rejection of the materialism and decadence that the fall had brought upon their people. They turned their backs on the wonders of technology and sought solace in the raw, untamed nature of their new homeworlds. They became the guardians of the most primal aspects of Eldar culture: hunting, living off the land, and even integrating with the alien wildlife of their new planets. They rode massive beasts into battle, their society structured around the balance of nature and the harmony of the land. Unlike the craft worlds, whose rigid clinical control over their people and destiny made them more akin to the old way of life, the Exodites embraced something more organic, something wild. There's a romanticism about the Exodites that often goes unnoticed. In the sea of cold, calculating Eldar, the Exodites offer a stark contrast, a people who are deeply connected to the worlds they inhabit, the creatures they coexist with, and the rhythms of life itself. They are survivors, not in the way the craft worlds survive by hoarding resources and isolating themselves, but in the way that you must learn to live in balance with the earth and everything around you. They have become part of their world, like the indigenous peoples of our own Earth, who, despite their technological limitations, know how to live in harmony with nature. The Exodites' societies are much more decentralized and natural than the highly structured craft worlds, and their culture, though steeped in ancient Eldar knowledge, is more about reverence for the land and their survival rather than a desire for grand ambitions. In terms of military power, the Exodites do not rely on the vast fleet or high-tech weaponry of the craft worlds. Instead, their strength lies in their adaptability and deep knowledge of survival tactics. They make use of the natural resources of their worlds, crafting weapons and defenses from the materials available to them. They can call upon the massive beasts of their planets to serve as war mounts, wielding them with a deadly precision that is unique to their way of life. These beasts, often referred to as the mounts of the Exodites, are not mere animals. They are a symbol of the Exodites' ability to shape and coexist with their environment, turning what others might see as weakness into their greatest strength. Yet, there's more to the Exodites than just survival. In many ways, their role in the Warhammer 40K universe is one of quiet resistance. While the craft worlds and the Drukhari have their own methods of dealing with the galactic chaos, the Exodites are constantly preparing for the worst-case scenario. They understand that the galaxy is a dangerous place, and their lifestyle is one of constant vigilance. They are a people who have learned to live with the knowledge that their race is dying, that they are one of the last remnants of an ancient civilization that once ruled the stars. But despite this, they have not given up. They have not surrendered to the inevitability of their downfall. Perhaps the most fascinating aspect of the Exodites is the way they view the future. The Exodites are, in many ways, the last of their kind, but they are also the last hope for their race. Their world-spanning defenses, their unmatched survival skills, and their deep connection to the land make them the ideal candidates to face a universal cataclysm. As the galaxy edges closer to the brink of destruction, it is not the glittering fleets of the craft worlds or the ruthless cunning of the Drukhari that will be the deciding factor in the ultimate survival of the Eldar. It will be the Exodites, the last line of defense, the guardians of the Eldar's most primal and ancient instincts. In the end, the Exodites represent something vital to the survival of the Eldar: hope, resilience, and the willingness to adapt to an ever-changing universe. While the other factions may look to their past or their power, the Exodites are the ones who look forward, knowing that the future will require more than just the remnants of their former glory. They are the last of a dying race, but they are not ready to go quietly into the night. They are prepared for the end, but also ready to fight for the future. The Exodite homeworlds are a place of stark contrast to the glittering cities and technological marvels of the craft worlds. These worlds are rough, wild, and often unforgiving, yet they are the very bedrock upon which the Exodite culture is built. There's an undeniable romanticism in the idea of these forgotten worlds, unspoiled by the decadence that plagued the Eldar before the fall, and untouched by the sprawling empires that seek to claim every inch of the galaxy. The Exodites chose to live in harmony with nature, to abandon the vast technologies of their ancestors in favor of something more primal, more sustainable. But their homeworlds are more than just refugees. They are fortresses, crafted from the land itself, designed to endure and withstand the most catastrophic of events. These worlds vary widely in their ecosystems, but they all share one common trait. They are harsh. To live on an Exodite world is to embrace survival in its most basic form. Whether it's the frozen tundra of one world, the sweltering jungles of another, or the arid, windswept deserts of a third, the Exodites have adapted to their environments in ways that few other races could. Their connection to these worlds is as deep as it is practical. After all, the Exodites are not just settlers, they are stewards of these planets. They take what they need from the land, but they do so with respect and a deep understanding of the balance that must be maintained. The harsh nature of their homeworlds isn't just a matter of survival, it's also a defense mechanism. These planets are the last bastions of the Eldar race, and their very environments are designed to deter invaders. Whether it's the massive, chasm-filled landscapes of some Exodite worlds, or the dense, impenetrable forests of others, the planets are naturally suited to defending themselves. The Exodites have, over the millennia, molded these worlds into places that are as inhospitable to others as they are welcoming to the Exodites themselves. The terrain itself acts as a weapon, making invasion nearly impossible without a deep understanding of the landscape and its dangers. Some of the most famous Exodite worlds are known for their sheer ferocity when it comes to the wildlife that inhabits them. These are not mere beasts, but massive, formidable creatures that have been bred for combat and survival. The Exodites are not shy about using these creatures to their advantage. They have developed close bonds with the animals that roam their worlds, taming them and riding them into battle. Some of these creatures are massive, towering over even the tallest of the Exodite warriors. Others are more nimble, predators that stalk through the thick jungles and frozen tundras, serving as the perfect mount for the Exodite hunters. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Exodite worlds is the level of integration between the Exodites and their environment. Unlike the craft worlds, which are highly structured and self-contained, the Exodite worlds are much more fluid. The Exodites do not have the luxury of sprawling cities or the advanced technology that the craft worlds rely on. Instead, they have built their societies around the natural resources available to them. From the caves they live in, to the temples they construct, to the weapons they craft, everything is sourced from the land itself. This has led to a unique cultural blend, where the Exodites are as much a part of their worlds as the beasts they ride or the plants they harvest. In terms of defense, the Exodite homeworlds are not just fortresses in a physical sense, but also in a spiritual one. The Exodites do not rely on the large-scale military forces or fleets that the craft worlds maintain. Instead, they have developed a highly decentralized form of defense, relying on the strength of their warriors and the cunning of their leaders. The Exodites are masters of guerrilla warfare, utilizing their environment to its fullest advantage. They strike swiftly and decisively, using the terrain to ambush invaders and wear them down over time. The Exodites' connection to their homeworlds also gives them an almost mystical edge. The lands they inhabit are steeped in ancient Eldar knowledge, passed down from their ancestors. The Exodites often have a deep understanding of the forces that govern their worlds, and this knowledge allows them to tap into the unique energies that flow through the land. Some believe that the Exodites are able to manipulate the very essence of their worlds, using psychic powers in subtle ways to influence the flora and fauna around them. This connection to the land is what gives the Exodites their edge in battle. While other factions may rely on weapons of mass destruction or overwhelming firepower, The Exodites use the very forces of nature itself to defend their homes. The defensive capabilities of the Exodite worlds are also tied to their use of technology, but in a much more primitive sense. While the craft worlds have vast fleets of ships, and the Drukhari have their own terrifying technology, the Exodites make use of what their environment provides. They craft weapons from the materials they find in the natural world: stone, wood, bone, and metals mined from the deepest caverns of their planets. These weapons may not have the sophistication of the craft world's advanced technology, but they are deadly in their simplicity. The Exodites have mastered the art of crafting weapons that are perfectly suited to their way of life. Bows that can fire arrows capable of piercing armor, spears that can bring down even the largest of beasts, and swords that are forged from the strongest metals found on their worlds. In addition to these weapons, the Exodites have also developed highly effective fortifications built into the very fabric of their planets. Their cities are often carved into the mountainside or hidden deep within the forests, making them nearly impossible to find or infiltrate. Some Exodite settlements are built into the sides of massive cliffs, with winding paths that lead to hidden entrances, while others are nestled in the heart of dense jungles, protected by thick foliage and treacherous terrain. These settlements are designed to be self-sufficient, with food, water, and shelter all sourced from the environment. The Exodites have also mastered the art of camouflage, making their cities nearly invisible to any would-be invaders. One of the most interesting theories about the Exodite homeworlds is that they were deliberately chosen for their potential to survive a cataclysmic event. Some fans believe that the Exodites may have seen the writing on the wall long before the fall of the Eldar, and that they chose to settle on these worlds as a means of preserving their race in the event of a universal cataclysm. These worlds, with their harsh environments and natural defenses, are perfectly suited for survival. While the Eldar of the craft worlds may have chosen to escape into the webway, the Exodites chose to live in the wild, honing their survival skills in preparation for the day when the galaxy would need their strength the most. In the end, the Exodite homeworlds are not just the backdrop for a story of survival. They are a testament to the resilience of the Eldar race. These worlds are the last bastions of a dying people, places where the Eldar can live in balance with nature, free from the decadence that brought about their downfall. And if the universe is ever threatened by a cataclysmic event, it will be these worlds, these fierce, untamed places, that may hold the key to the survival of the Eldar. The Exodites are not just warriors, they are the guardians of a way of life that has been lost to much of their kind. They are the last hope for a race that is on the brink of extinction, and their homeworlds are the stronghold that will protect them from the horrors of the galaxy. The fall of the Eldar is one of the most cataclysmic events in the history of the Warhammer 40K universe, a moment that fractured the very foundation of an ancient and mighty civilization. It was a time when the Eldar, in their pursuit of excess, hedonism, and unchecked ambition, unknowingly gave birth to a chaos god, Slaanesh, who would wreak havoc upon their society, consuming it in a torrent of destruction and decay. In the wake of this disaster, the Eldar were broken, scattered across the galaxy, and left to fight for survival against the horrors of a universe that no longer held a place for their once glorious empire. Yet amid the ruins of their civilization, the Exodites stand as a unique and poignant symbol of what the Eldar might have been if they had chosen a different path. The Exodites were not the ones who lingered in the decadent cities of the Eldar. They were not those who sought pleasure, power, and the trappings of immortality. No, the Exodites were the ones who saw the dangers of their people's excess long before the fall, and they made the difficult choice to abandon the heart of the Eldar Empire. They fled to the wilderness, choosing to live in harmony with nature, far from the temptations that had led their people to ruin. It is a choice that sets them apart from the other Eldar factions, who either perished in the fall or were irrevocably changed by it. The Exodites, in their rejection of the corruption that plagued their kin, preserved a fragment of what the Eldar could have been. But how do the Exodites fit into the larger narrative of the Eldar race, particularly in the aftermath of the fall? Their role in the story is one of quiet resistance and resilience. While the craft worlds retreated into their self-contained bubbles of survival, and the Drukhari descended into a brutal, sadistic existence in the dark city of Komara, the Exodites chose a path of renewal. They did not cling to the past glories of their race, nor did they indulge in the twisted pleasures of the Dark Eldar. Instead, they focused on survival, and more importantly, on ensuring that their civilization would live on in a form that was free from the taint of excess. The Exodites, unlike the craft worlds, did not seek to preserve the technological wonders of their race. They rejected the artificial life of the webway and chose to live in the most untamed and unforgiving environments possible. This was a conscious decision, one that reflected their desire to return to a more primal, natural way of life. The fall had shown them the dangers of unchecked ambition and technological overreach. They chose instead to live off the land, to bond with the beasts of their new homeworlds, and to fight for survival in a galaxy that seemed determined to destroy them. In doing so, they became the last remnants of the Eldar who had learned the true meaning of humility. There is a certain tragedy in the Exodites' story, one that is not often acknowledged in the larger narrative of the Eldar. The Exodites are, in many ways, the forgotten children of the Eldar race. While the craft worlds are celebrated for their survival, and the Drukhari are infamous for their cruelty, the Exodites are largely ignored. Their worlds are not grand citadels of artifice and beauty. They are rugged, untamed, and wild. The Exodites do not seek to reclaim the past glory of the Eldar, nor do they aspire to greatness in the way that other factions do. Instead, they have carved out a modest existence, living in harmony with their environment, far from the chaos and violence that has engulfed the rest of their race. Yet, in their quiet resistance, the Exodites are perhaps the most poignant symbol of the Eldar's lost potential. The fall of the Eldar was a tragedy, not just because of the physical destruction it wrought, but because it marked the loss of a great civilization that could have been. The Exodites, in their rejection of the excess that brought their people to ruin, represent what the Eldar could have been if they had chosen a different path. They are the embodiment of the Eldar's lost nobility, their last chance at redemption. In the aftermath of the fall, the Exodites became a race apart. They are no longer part of the greater Eldar narrative, having separated themselves from the other factions long before the collapse of their people. The craft worlds, though survivors, are a grim reflection of the Eldar's past mistakes, a people forever haunted by the choices they made. The Drukhari, on the other hand, are the twisted offspring of the Eldar's most depraved desires, living in a constant state of anguish and torment. The Exodites, however, are untouched by the vices that destroyed their race. They are the Eldar who chose to live simply, who rejected the illusions of immortality and indulgence that had led to their downfall. But the Exodites are not without their struggles. They are not immune to the dangers of the galaxy, and their small, isolated communities are often preyed upon by larger, more powerful factions. The Exodites do not have the vast fleets of the craft worlds or the sheer ruthlessness of the Drukhari. They rely on their connection to the land and the beasts that inhabit it, but even this is not always enough to protect them from the ever-encroaching darkness of the galaxy. The Exodites may have rejected the decadence that destroyed their race, but they still live in a galaxy that is hostile to their survival. And as the universe moves toward a cataclysmic future, their role in the broader Eldar narrative will become even more crucial. In many ways, the Exodites are the Eldar's last hope. While the craft worlds have retreated into their cold, calculating isolation, and the Drukhari have become a twisted parody of their former selves, the Exodites still hold on to the values that once made the Eldar great. They are the last guardians of the Eldar's lost nobility, the last reminder of what the Eldar could have been. And in the face of a universal cataclysm, it will be the Exodites who may hold the key to survival. They have no grand fleet, no ancient technology, no vast armies. But what they do have is the strength of their connection to the land, to the beasts they ride, and to each other. They are the Eldar who have learned the true meaning of survival, and they may very well be the only ones left who can save their race from the darkness that threatens to consume them. A universal cataclysm is not just a disaster or a war between factions. It is a singular event that threatens the very fabric of the galaxy, a force that could unravel everything in its path. To understand what this could mean, we need to think on a scale beyond the typical conflict between the Imperium and the forces of chaos, or the endless struggles of the Xenos races. A universal cataclysm is an event that could encompass entire star systems, warp storms that swallow worlds, and cosmic horrors that tear apart the natural order itself. It's a threat on a scale that goes far beyond the squabbles of empires or the ambitions of gods. It's an existential crisis that could mark the end of everything. In the Warhammer 40K universe, a universal cataclysm could come from many sources. One possibility lies in the fabric of the warp itself, the malevolent, chaotic realm that intersects with reality. We've seen the horrors of the warp firsthand in the forms of demons and the ever-present influence of chaos. What if the warp were to break free of its boundaries, expanding uncontrollably across the galaxy? The very nature of the warp is tied to the emotions and actions of sentient beings, and the more these beings succumb to their worst impulses, the more the warp itself strengthens. A cataclysmic rupture of the warp could send its tides crashing into reality, destabilizing worlds, distorting time and space, and bringing about an age of constant and unimaginable suffering. This would not just be a threat to the Eldar or the Imperium, it would be a universal catastrophe that could end all life as we know it. Another potential source of a universal cataclysm could be the resurgence of an ancient, forgotten power or race, something that has lain dormant for eons, awaiting the right conditions to rise again. Think of the Necrons, whose return has already been hinted at, or perhaps even the Ingir, the ancient enemies of the Old Ones. What if one of these primordial forces were to return in full force, with technology and power so far beyond current understanding that it could sweep away the entire galaxy in a single strike? Such an event could fracture the balance of power in the galaxy, leading to a complete collapse of the fragile order that holds everything together. The threat would be so great that even the mightiest of armies would be powerless to stop it. We could also consider the idea of a universal cataclysm emerging from within the galactic core, from the very center of the galaxy itself. The black holes that lurk there are immense, powerful, and barely understood by the galaxy's inhabitants. What if one of these black holes were to destabilize, sending shockwaves throughout the galaxy, causing gravitational forces to tear apart star systems and cause entire sectors to collapse into oblivion? Such a cosmic disaster would leave entire civilizations scrambling to survive in the wake of the destruction. Yet, regardless of the origin, a universal cataclysm is not simply a matter of waiting for a disaster to happen. It would be the product of the culmination of forces already at work, the gradual erosion of stability that precedes the final event. It's not as if the universe could suddenly break apart overnight. It would come from the slow, persistent weakening of the galactic order. The many factions, the Imperium, the Chaos Forces, the Xenos, would all play their part, whether knowingly or unknowingly, in contributing to the imminent disaster. A universal cataclysm is, in many ways, the result of the universe's natural cycle, one of death and rebirth, of things falling apart to make way for something new, even if that new is an unrecognizable, inhospitable reality. Now, how do the Exodites fit into this? How could they possibly be involved in stopping a threat of this magnitude, especially considering their more isolated and primitive lifestyle? The answer lies in their deep connection to the land, to the very nature of their worlds. The Exodites have lived for millennia on planets that are untouched by the grand technologies and hubris of other Eldar factions. They have learned to read the signs of the universe in a way that no other Eldar can, understanding the flow of energy in their ecosystems, the subtle balance that holds life together. The Exodites' survival is not just about battle prowess or technological superiority. It's about their innate connection to the natural world, something that is sorely lacking in the other factions. In the face of a universal cataclysm, the Exodites would not rely on grand fleets or devastating weapons of war. Instead, they would turn to the very foundations of their survival. The ancient knowledge passed down through the generations, the wisdom of their ancestors who chose to live in harmony with the land. The Exodites may be the only Eldar faction left who are truly in tune with the energies that flow through the galaxy. Their survival on harsh worlds, where every day is a struggle against the elements, has given them insights into the very workings of the universe that the other factions lack. Consider this. The Exodites' worlds are not simply planets. They are living entities, connected to the warp in a way that many Eldar do not fully understand. The Exodites' unique bond with their worlds gives them an ability to sense shifts in the cosmic balance, to detect disturbances in the fabric of reality before they become fully apparent to others. This connection could make the Exodites the first to recognize the early signs of a universal cataclysm. They may not have the resources to stop it with conventional means, but they would be the first to understand its nature and its coming. One theory that circulates among fans is that the Exodites could act as protectors of the ancient Eldar knowledge hidden within their planets. In a time of galactic crisis, the Exodites could unlock long-forgotten secrets, tapping into the knowledge that could help avert or delay the cataclysm. This knowledge might come in the form of ancient rituals, psychic powers, or even lost technology buried deep within their worlds. While the craft worlds are focused on maintaining the last remnants of their civilization, and the Drukhari are consumed by their lust for power, the Exodites might be the ones who hold the key to surviving the coming storm. Another aspect of the Exodites' potential involvement lies in their mastery over the creatures of their worlds. These beasts are not just mounts or animals to be tamed. They are living weapons, integrated into the Exodites' way of life in a manner that is uniquely their own. In the event of a universal cataclysm, these creatures could be crucial in the battle to hold back the forces that threaten to destroy everything. They could serve as the last line of defense, defending the Exodite worlds from external invaders or even the cosmic forces that threaten reality itself. The Exodites' bond with these creatures could give them a strategic advantage that other factions might not even be able to comprehend. The Exodites' involvement in stopping a universal cataclysm may not be as grandiose or as dramatic as the efforts of the larger Eldar factions, but it could be just as crucial. In a universe where the line between survival and extinction is thin, the Exodites are the ones who understand what it truly means to endure. They are the ones who have lived through millennia of hardship and who know that true strength lies not in power or technology, but in adaptability, resilience, and the ability to read the signs of the universe itself. When the galaxy stands on the brink of destruction, it may very well be the Exodites who stand as the last hope for salvation, not through weapons of war, but through their intimate connection with the very forces that govern the cosmos. The Exodites are, in many ways, the forgotten children of the Eldar race. While the craft worlds are revered for their technological superiority and the Drukhari are feared for their sadistic ways, the Exodites are often overlooked in the broader narrative of the Warhammer 40K universe. Yet, despite their relatively quiet existence, the Exodites hold a crucial role that cannot be ignored. They stand apart from the other factions in a way that makes them both unique and important, not only to the Eldar but to the galaxy as a whole. Their way of life, their connection to nature, and their survival instincts make them an intriguing force, one that could tip the balance in the galaxy's many conflicts. In terms of interaction with other factions, the Exodites are more reclusive than any other Eldar faction. They do not seek the attention or the favor of other races, nor do they engage in the same level of politicking that characterizes the craft worlds or the Drukhari. In many ways, the Exodites are the Eldar race's hermits, living on isolated, often inhospitable worlds. Their entire existence revolves around maintaining their way of life, far from the complex entanglements of the greater galaxy. However, this does not mean that the Exodites are completely uninvolved in the events that unfold across the stars. The galaxy is a violent place, and the Exodites are aware of the threats that loom. While they may not actively participate in the galactic wars, they will not hesitate to defend their worlds or their kin when the need arises. The Exodites' relationship with the Imperium of man is perhaps one of the most complex. On one hand, the Exodites are distant from the human race, with little to no direct interaction. They are not like the craft worlds, who have a more established, if strained, relationship with the Imperium. However, the Exodites share a common enemy in the form of chaos, and this shared goal can sometimes bring them into uneasy alliances. There have been instances in the past where the Exodites have worked with the Imperium to combat the forces of chaos, though these alliances are always temporary and fraught with mistrust. The Exodites do not trust the Imperium, and rightfully so. The Imperium is an empire built on oppression, tyranny, and the worship of a false god. For the Exodites, who have chosen to reject the ways of their ancestors in favor of a simpler, more sustainable life, the Imperium represents everything that is wrong with the Eldar race. And yet, in the face of a greater threat, the Exodites recognize that the enemy of their enemy is sometimes their ally, however begrudging that alliance may be. The Exodites' relationship with the Chaos Forces is, of course, even more antagonistic. Chaos represents everything the Exodites stand against: decadence, excess, and the destruction of nature itself. The Exodites view the forces of chaos as a direct threat to their way of life, and they are not afraid to confront them when necessary. In fact, the Exodites may be one of the few factions that has a true understanding of the dangers of chaos, given their deep connection to the warp and the natural world. While the craft worlds are focused on maintaining their survival, and the Drukhari revel in their sadistic pursuits, the Exodites are the ones who understand that the very fabric of the galaxy is being torn apart by the forces of chaos. They know that the war against chaos is not just a fight for survival, it is a fight for the very soul of the galaxy, and they will stand against it, even if it means standing alone. The Exodites' role in the Warhammer 40K universe is also shaped by their unique connection to their homeworlds. These planets are not just isolated backwaters, they are incredibly powerful fortresses built to withstand any threat. The Exodites are the stewards of these worlds, and they know that the safety of their people depends on the strength of their defenses. The Exodite homeworlds are difficult to reach, and even more difficult to conquer. They are surrounded by impenetrable jungles, desolate deserts, and towering mountains. The beasts that roam these worlds are not just animals, they are formidable predators that have been tamed by the Exodites, used as mounts and weapons in their endless fight for survival. The Exodites are not a race that relies on technology in the same way as the craft worlds. They don't have massive starships or psychic weapons. What they have are their worlds, their creatures, and their survival skills. These are their greatest weapons, and they are more than capable of using them to defend themselves from any threat. One of the most striking things about the Exodites in the context of the greater Warhammer 40K universe is the way they have managed to avoid the decline that has affected much of the Eldar race. The craft worlds, while surviving the fall, are still haunted by it, forever trying to preserve what they once had. The Drukhari have descended into a nightmare of sadism and decadence, a race consumed by their own darkness. But the Exodites have found a way to survive without becoming corrupted by the same forces that have destroyed their kin. They have rejected the past and embraced a new way of life, one that is deeply rooted in the natural world. This makes them stand out from the rest of the Eldar factions, who are all focused on survival in different ways. The craft worlds preserve their knowledge and culture, the Drukhari survive through brutality, and the Exodites survive through harmony with the land. This unique survival strategy gives the Exodites an edge in ways that other factions might overlook. The Exodites' role in the galaxy is ultimately one of quiet guardianship. They are not the ones who seek glory or power, nor do they engage in the larger galactic wars. But they are the ones who are prepared for the end times, the ones who have built their survival on the foundation of the natural world and the power of their homeworlds. In a galaxy where everything seems destined to end in flames, the Exodites are the ones who stand firm, watching over their people and their worlds. They know that survival is not just about fighting wars or wielding power. It's about maintaining balance, understanding the rhythms of the galaxy, and knowing when to act. And when the time comes, the Exodites will be there, not because they seek fame or recognition, but because they understand that their role in the galaxy is one of the most important. In a universe dominated by endless war, the Exodites are a reminder that there is more to survival than just conquest. They stand apart not because they are weak, but because they have chosen a different path. They do not need the grand fleets of the craft worlds or the power of the Drukhari. They have their world, their beasts, and their people, and that is enough. They are not concerned with the politics of the galaxy. They are focused on survival, on maintaining the delicate balance of life, and on preparing for the day when the galaxy will need them the most. In the end, the Exodites are the last hope of the Eldar, and their role in the Warhammer 40K universe is one of quiet but profound importance. When considering the defenses of the Exodites, it's important to remember that they are not just a people of survival, but of resilience. Their homeworlds are not the glittering, technologically advanced citadels of the craft worlds, nor are they the decadent, twisted fortresses of the Drukhari. The Exodites' strength lies in their ability to live in harmony with their environment, to adapt and thrive where others might falter. But when it comes to facing a galaxy-spanning threat, their defenses are anything but simple. They have honed their ability to defend their worlds through the integration of their environment, their ancient knowledge, and a deep understanding of the natural world. These are the weapons they wield, and they make the Exodites a force to be reckoned with. The Exodites, having chosen the most hostile and inhospitable worlds in the galaxy to call home, have learned to use their environments to their advantage. Unlike the other Eldar factions, who rely on vast technological fleets or devastating psychic powers, the Exodites use the very land beneath their feet as a tool for survival. Their defenses are not reliant on the shining armor of space fleets, but on the rugged, untamed power of nature itself. The terrain of their planets is often deadly and unforgiving: jagged mountain ranges, dense jungles filled with terrifying predators, or vast deserts that make even the most seasoned warriors think twice before entering. This harsh environment acts as the first line of defense against any would-be invaders. Any force that attempts to reach the Exodite worlds must first contend with the world itself, and not every army is prepared for the challenges that these planets present. One of the most iconic aspects of Exodite defense is their relationship with the wildlife of their planets. The creatures that roam their worlds are not merely beasts. They are essential to the Exodites' way of life and their military tactics. The Exodites have spent millennia learning to bond with these creatures, training them to serve as mounts, guardians, and even weapons in their own right. These beasts are far more than simple animals. They are a living extension of the Exodite people, and their bond with them is akin to that of a warrior and his weapon. The Exodites ride massive, powerful creatures into battle, using them to charge into the fray with devastating force. These beasts are not just for show. They are highly trained, incredibly strong, and often possess natural abilities that make them ideal for combat. Some of the Exodite mounts are covered in thick, armor-like hides, while others have natural weaponry, such as razor-sharp claws or powerful tails that can crush opponents in an instant. But the Exodites don't just rely on their beasts for protection. Their deep connection to their homeworlds gives them a unique advantage when it comes to the art of warfare. The Exodites understand the subtle flows of energy that course through their planets, the currents of the land, the flow of water, and the rhythms of the flora and fauna. They have learned to use this knowledge to create a network of traps, ambush points, and fortifications that are invisible to the untrained eye. These defensive structures are often hidden deep within the environment, making them nearly impossible to detect or breach. The Exodites do not need the massive, gleaming walls of a craft world. They use the very natural terrain to form their defenses. They've honed the art of camouflage and subterfuge, blending their settlements seamlessly into the environment. Their cities and strongholds are often built into the very rock of mountains, concealed beneath the dense foliage of jungles, or buried deep underground, where they can be defended from every direction. When it comes to strategy, the Exodites employ a style of warfare that is more about patience and precision than brute force. The Exodites are not interested in engaging in endless battles or war of attrition. They are masters of guerrilla tactics, using the land to slowly wear down their enemies. They do not fight like the Drukhari, who rely on speed and terror, nor like the craft worlds, who use their advanced technology to overwhelm their opponents. The Exodites fight a war of attrition, waiting for the right moment to strike. They know their enemies will tire, that their resources will run low, and that the Exodites will be waiting. They've learned to use their environment to confuse, trap, and exhaust their foes, drawing them deeper into the wilderness where the natural dangers of the world can finish the job. Another aspect of their defenses comes from the old, forgotten knowledge that the Exodites preserve. While the craft worlds have focused on maintaining their ancient technologies and psychic prowess, the Exodites have kept a different kind of knowledge alive, one rooted in the primal, ancient ways of their race. This knowledge gives them an understanding of the galaxy's natural forces that other factions simply do not possess. The Exodites have a deep understanding of the ley lines of energy that run through their worlds, how the planet's psychic resonance can be used to create powerful shields, disrupt enemy technologies, or even influence the tides of battle. This knowledge is ancient, passed down from their ancestors, and it allows the Exodites to craft defenses that other factions might dismiss as primitive. But it is precisely this knowledge that makes the Exodites so dangerous in the face of a galaxy-spanning threat. They are not just fighting with weapons, they are fighting with the very essence of their worlds. When facing a large-scale invasion or a threat that spans the galaxy, the Exodites' defenses rely not only on their own abilities, but also on the terrain and environment around them. One example is their use of highly dangerous native flora and fauna, some of which are armed with deadly toxins or powerful defensive mechanisms. The Exodites can manipulate these creatures and plants to slow down or incapacitate any invading force. These natural defenses are often underestimated by those who believe that only advanced technology can truly protect a world. But the Exodites have proven time and time again that they do not need massive space fleets or starships. They only need their connection to the land, the beasts they ride, and the knowledge passed down through generations. The Exodites also understand the importance of secrecy and surprise in warfare. Many of their settlements are hidden beneath the very surface of their planets, camouflaged in such a way that they would be nearly impossible to detect from space. Their cities are often built deep in the mountains or hidden beneath dense canopies of trees, creating natural barriers to any external threat. Even their weapons are often crafted to blend seamlessly with the environment, creating a defense system that is both invisible and deadly. The Exodites' use of psychic camouflage, combined with their natural terrain, creates a defense network that is nearly impossible to breach without intimate knowledge of the planet. In a galaxy where high-tech, flashy weapons and massive space fleets dominate the battlefield, the Exodites stand as a reminder that sometimes the simplest solutions are the most effective. They rely not on overwhelming firepower, but on the strength of their connection to the land, the creatures that roam their worlds, and the ancient knowledge passed down through generations. Their defense tactics are rooted in patience, precision, and adaptability, traits that make them a unique and powerful force in the Warhammer 40K universe. If the galaxy is ever faced with a true cataclysmic event, the Exodites will not fall. They will not retreat. They will stand firm, using the tools they have honed over millennia to protect their worlds, their people, and the very essence of what it means to survive. The relationship between the Exodites and the Imperium of Man is a complex and, at times, uncomfortable one. At first glance, the two might seem to be distant and even unrelated, with the Exodites living on their remote worlds, removed from the sprawling empire of humanity. However, when the galaxy's history is examined, it becomes clear that the Exodites cannot be so easily dismissed or overlooked by the Imperium, nor can they simply ignore the colossal power of the human empire. In the greater conflict that is the Warhammer 40K universe, the Exodites are neither fully allies nor outright enemies of the Imperium. They are instead neutral players, existing in a delicate balance of survival, cooperation, and conflict, shaped by mutual distrust and an understanding of the fragility of their existence. The Exodites' relationship with the Imperium is founded on mutual suspicion, an inevitable result of the Eldar's long history with humanity. The Imperium sees the Eldar as a race of dangerous, elusive beings, and rightfully so. Their psychic powers, ancient technology, and unpredictable nature have made them a thorn in humanity's side for millennia. From the perspective of the Imperium, the Exodites are part of that larger, often incomprehensible race, and therefore they are suspect. The Imperium is a paranoid, self-preserving empire, constantly at war with both external and internal threats. The Exodites, as part of the broader Eldar race, fall under the same shadow of mistrust and fear. There are some factions within the Imperium that see all Eldar as a threat, no matter their affiliations, due to the centuries of conflict between the two species. The Exodites, though more distant and isolated from the galaxy's conflicts, are not immune to this suspicion. Their alliance with the Imperium, should it ever form, would likely be born out of necessity rather than genuine trust. On the other hand, the Exodites have their own reasons for being wary of the Imperium. While the Exodites are not the same as the Drukhari, whose sadistic tendencies and unrelenting thirst for power make them mortal enemies of humanity, the Exodites' relationship with the Imperium is far from friendly. The Exodites view the Imperium's rise to power with a certain amount of disdain, seeing humanity as a race that is constantly striving for dominion over the galaxy, despite its relatively short history. From the Exodites' perspective, the Imperium embodies the very same arrogant pursuit of power and expansion that led to the fall of the Eldar in the first place. They can see the echoes of their own race's self-destructive behavior reflected in the Imperium's quest for dominance. To the Exodites, the Imperium's reliance on the Emperor's godlike figure and the worship of a false deity is a symptom of the same decadence that doomed their own people. They understand that the Imperium's power is built on a fragile foundation of superstition and violence, and they have little respect for an empire that has so much in common with the very things that led to the Eldar's downfall. Despite this animosity, the Exodites are not blind to the reality of their situation. The galaxy is a place of endless conflict, and the Exodites know that in order to survive, they must sometimes make uncomfortable alliances. While they may not trust the Imperium, they understand the necessity of working with humanity against common enemies, particularly when the forces of chaos threaten to consume all in their path. The Exodites' relationship with the Imperium can therefore be described as one of pragmatism rather than idealism. They recognize that in a galaxy on the brink of destruction, their survival depends on being able to navigate the delicate web of alliances and enmities that shape the fate of the galaxy. This means that when faced with a greater threat, such as the forces of chaos or a galaxy-spanning invasion, they may be forced to cooperate with the Imperium, if only temporarily. This uneasy cooperation could take many forms. The Exodites are far more isolated than the craft worlds, but they are not entirely detached from the larger galactic events. In the event of an impending invasion or cataclysmic war, the Exodites might be willing to offer their expertise in survival and their unique knowledge of the natural world to assist the Imperium. The Exodites have a deep understanding of warfare, not in the traditional sense, but through their intimate knowledge of guerrilla tactics, survival strategies, and defensive warfare. The Imperium might find itself turning to the Exodites for help in defending against a universal threat, especially if that threat takes the form of something like a warp rupture or an invasion by ancient enemies, such as the Necrons. The Exodites, with their ability to survive in the harshest environments and their use of native beasts and natural defenses, would be invaluable in such a scenario. However, such alliances would be temporary at best. The Exodites have no love for the Imperium, and they would never fully trust the humans, who they see as a race that has yet to learn the lessons of their own self-destruction. The Exodites know that their cooperation with the Imperium would be born out of necessity, not out of any genuine desire to aid humanity. In the aftermath of a crisis, the Exodites would likely retreat back into their seclusion, perhaps even resenting the Imperium for continuing down a path they see as doomed to failure. The Exodites may view their alliance with the Imperium as a necessary evil, a temporary partnership forged by the fires of survival, but they would always remain vigilant, ever watchful of humanity's intentions. One of the most fascinating aspects of the Exodites' relationship with the Imperium is their potential role in the larger conflict that defines the Warhammer 40K universe. While the Imperium is locked in a battle for survival against the forces of chaos, the Exodites are quietly enduring, holding their worlds and their people together, far from the chaos that engulfs the rest of the galaxy. But when the dust settles, and the warlords and conquerors have fought their battles, it will be the Exodites who remain, the last of the Eldar, the last hope of a once proud race. And it's not beyond the realm of possibility that the Imperium may eventually come to realize this, that they may come to see the Exodites not as a threat, but as a vital part of the galaxy's future. In the end, the Exodites' relationship with the Imperium is not one of friendship, nor of enmity. It is one of survival, pragmatism, and uneasy coexistence. The Exodites are not allies of the Imperium in the traditional sense, nor are they outright enemies. They are a neutral force in the larger conflict, choosing to focus on their own survival while remaining watchful of the dangers that threaten the galaxy. Whether they are willing to fully embrace the Imperium or remain as distant observers of the greater conflict remains to be seen. But one thing is certain. In the end, the Exodites will stand firm, as they always have, waiting for the moment when they must once again fight to protect their people, their worlds, and the very soul of the Eldar race. In the face of the galaxy's breaking point, the Exodites stand as an embodiment of both quiet strength and resolute endurance. They are a people forged in the fires of their own history, an ancient, once great civilization that fell into ruin due to its own hubris and excess. But unlike the other factions of the Eldar race, who either retreated into self-imposed isolation or embraced darker, more twisted paths, the Exodites chose survival over decadence. When the galaxy is on the brink of destruction, it is this same resilience, this same refusal to crumble, that might be the Exodites' greatest strength. Their ability to endure, adapt, and remain steadfast in the face of cosmic horrors is what sets them apart from every other faction in the galaxy. The Exodites have already lived through their race's darkest hour. They saw the fall of the Eldar, the birth of Slaanesh, the catastrophic unraveling of an empire that once stretched across the stars. In the wake of that destruction, the Exodites made the difficult choice to abandon their former way of life, to retreat to distant, inhospitable worlds. Their decision to live outside the webway, away from the decadent trappings of their once mighty civilization, was one of survival, but also one of rejection. They rejected the cycle of excess that had consumed their people, instead embracing a life that was as harsh as it was necessary. They carved out their place on these barren, untamed worlds, fighting against nature itself and against the ghosts of their past. But this survival isn't just about hiding away or retreating into isolation. The Exodites have learned that true survival is about adaptation, resilience, and the strength to stand firm when everything else falls apart. The galaxy has never been kind to them. There have always been threats on the horizon, whether from the predations of other Xenos races, the chaos of the warp, or the sheer instability of the universe itself. The Exodites know this better than anyone. Their history is marked by periods of hardship, struggle, and the constant threat of annihilation. Yet, against all odds, they remain. This is not merely a people that survives. They are a people that fights. They fight with the land, with the beasts of their worlds, and with a resolve that transcends mere survival. When the galaxy is at its breaking point, when the forces of destruction threaten to wipe away everything in their path, the Exodites will not flinch. They will not bow to the winds of chaos or the relentless march of fate. The Exodites know that their way of life is fragile, but they also know that they are stronger than the sum of their parts. They are survivors in the truest sense. They have no massive fleets or armies to wield against a galactic cataclysm, but they have something even more valuable, an unbreakable spirit and an unparalleled connection to the land they inhabit. Their worlds, as harsh and dangerous as they may be, are not just home to the Exodites. They are the foundation of their strength. These worlds are, in a very real sense, part of the Exodites themselves. Their bond with the environment gives them the strength to withstand whatever cosmic storm may come their way. The Exodites' military tactics, based on guerrilla warfare and survival strategies, are perfectly suited to the task of holding the line in the face of destruction. These are not soldiers who need overwhelming firepower or high-tech weaponry. They fight with cunning, precision, and an intimate knowledge of their environment. Their weapons, crafted from the natural materials of their worlds, are as deadly as any advanced Eldar technology. But the true strength of the Exodite warriors lies in their ability to use their surroundings to their advantage. When faced with a galaxy-spanning threat, the Exodites will not meet it head-on in the way other factions might. Instead, they will use their environment, their beasts, and their tactical brilliance to make the terrain itself a weapon. It's this understanding of their surroundings that could be their greatest advantage in the face of the galaxy's ultimate destruction. While the Imperium, the craft worlds, and the forces of chaos might rely on massive fleets or psychic weapons to push back against the forces of annihilation, the Exodites will rely on their resilience. They know that survival is not just about firepower, it's about adaptability. The Exodites are more than capable of facing destruction because they have already faced it countless times in their history. When the galaxy is at its breaking point, they will fight with everything they have, using the resources of their worlds, the strength of their warriors, and the cunning of their leaders. The Exodites are not just fighting for themselves, they are fighting for the survival of their people, their way of life, and the future of their dying race. Fan theories about the Exodites often speculate on their role in the greater galactic conflict. Many believe that when the universe faces a cataclysmic event, the Exodites will be the ones who hold the line, standing firm in defense of their worlds and their people. Some think that the Exodites, with their deep connection to the land and their ability to survive in the most hostile environments, could become the last bastion of the Eldar race. They may not have the psychic might or the fleets of the craft worlds, but they have a unique advantage: the ability to endure, to adapt, and to survive when everything else has crumbled. The Exodites may be the true inheritors of the Eldar legacy, carrying with them the lessons of their people's fall and the knowledge of how to survive in a galaxy that is constantly on the edge of destruction. This resilience and determination are reflected not only in the Exodites' military strategy, but in their very way of life. The Exodites do not fear the end. They have lived with the knowledge of their people's decline for millennia. They understand that the universe is a place of constant change and destruction, and they have learned to live with that reality. Their survival is not about holding on to the past or fighting to restore what was lost. It is about embracing the present, adapting to the forces that shape their worlds, and remaining strong in the face of adversity. This is what makes the Exodites so formidable in the face of a universal cataclysm. They are not fighting for glory or power. They are fighting for survival, and when the galaxy faces its darkest hour, they will be the ones who endure. Can the Exodites hold the line? The answer lies in their very nature. The Exodites have never been a faction driven by ambition or conquest. They have no need for grand victories or the glory of battle. What they fight for is survival. Survival of their people, survival of their way of life, and survival of the last remnants of the Eldar race. In a galaxy that is on the brink of annihilation, it will be the Exodites who endure, holding the line when all else falls. Their resilience is not just a matter of physical endurance. It is a testament to the strength of their spirit, their culture, and their determination to survive against all odds. And when the dust settles, when the galaxy has been reshaped by the forces of destruction, it will be the Exodites who stand as the last hope for the future of the Eldar race. They will hold the line, not because they have no choice, but because they are the ones who understand what it means to truly survive.